time. How much of it do you actually think you spend waiting for your students to be ready to learn? I think that if you ask teachers to wave a magic wand, their 3 wishes would be more coffee, smaller class sizes, and more time. Unfortunately, I'm fresh out of magic wands, but what I do have is a class reward system that will save you days of valuable teaching time if you implement it correctly. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but over the day we can have up to 15 transitions, and if you're left even waiting 30 seconds for them to be ready, that's 7 minutes every day, and it adds up very quickly because that's 35 minutes over the week, and over a whole term, 350 minutes of time waiting for your kids to be ready. That is a whole day of teaching. But seriously, if I'm left only waiting 30 seconds for my kids to be ready, I would be a happy man. But that was before I stumbled across this behavior management gem. So today I'm going to share with you my class reward system that you can implement straight away. And not only is it going to save you time, but it is also going to create a positive learning environment for your students to thrive and increase all those positive learning behaviors you want and eliminate the ones that you don't. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you might be able to tweak this system so that it fits your room perfectly. But before I get to that, let me know in the comments below what reward system you use in your classroom. My system is very simple. Whenever I give an instruction, be it pencils down and eyes to me, or open your books, turn to a new page and have the date, whatever it is, when I tell them to move, I start a timer. When they've completed the task and I see that they're ready to learn, I stop the timer, and whatever's left over is added to a running total. This is going to become theirs later on. If I'm standing there and I'm left waiting, I start a stopwatch, and this time is subtracted from the total. And that's it. It's so simple to set up and so easy for the kids to understand. But there are some ways to make this incredibly effective, but also some vital things that you need to do in the setup to make sure that it not only works very well, but it's sustainable. And even more than that, how you can use it to increase your positive behaviors and eliminate the negative ones. So the keys to making this successful. The first time that you try this, you're going to give them way too much time to complete a task, and you're not going to tell them why. Get them to come into the room, put a timer on the board, and tell them you're looking to see how fast they can get themselves ready and set up to learn. Then when they do it nice and quick, add the leftover time to a very visible place on the board. And when they ask you what it's for, tell them you'll let them know when it reaches 5 minutes. Continue this over the day, accumulating time until it gets to 5 minutes. When it does, you stop everything and congratulate them on how much time they have saved. And then you ask them, how would they like to spend it? Now you don't have to stop at 5 minutes, but we'll get to that later. It's their time, they've earned it, how would they like to spend it? Ask them, get them to throw ideas at you. It could be sport, it could be device time, it could be a classroom game, it could be free time. Whatever it is, they've earned it, so give it to them. Obviously within reason. Even if you're interrupting a lesson right now, trust me, do it now. It will be worth it in the long run. Give them their reward time and have heaps of fun. When you return to your activity, tell them you want to go in, have their books ready, pencils down, arms folded, eyes to you. Start the timer and send them off. Watch how fast they get ready. You need to give them the reward so fast so that they understand what's at stake. After you've done this over the day, they'll understand very fast and you can begin to make some tweaks. You gave them 5 minutes at the start so they can earn it. Your job now is to find the ideal time for each transition. So anytime my class enters the room, they get 1:30 on the clock to be ready. But it didn't start here. We gradually built up to it as they got better and better at saving time. But how can you encourage all those positive behaviors in the class as well? When you find that one student that is always ready first, how can you encourage that so that other students follow along and do this as well? Well, I personally use spinning timers that look like this, and time becomes a currency. Anytime I find a student that's showing behavior that I want repeated, I bring them up to the front of the room and I make a very big deal out of it. I get them to spin the wheel and then they earn time to our running total. And anytime I find that the whole class is just working well, and I make a massive deal out of the fact that I can't find just one single person, I'll randomly give the whole class some extra time on the board. Now, why I love this approach is because I found that students become very motivated when they see the effect that it has on their peers. So when a student gets a massive cheer from the class when they spin a whole minute, they start to work very hard at achieving that feeling again. But it also gives a chance for the kids in the middle to feel the effects of that reward too. Because I've always found that reward systems tend to either reward the kids at the tippity top, or it's used to encourage behaviors in the students that really need encouragement, and the ones in the middle seem to get forgotten about. So this gives you a chance to reward the kids that are always just doing the right thing, but may not stand out as much and fly under the radar. So what about the kids that aren't meeting expectation? If they've been misbehaving all week, it can be very hard to reward them and allow them to participate in this reward time if they haven't earned it. What we don't want is kids that sit back and misbehave and let the other students accumulate time for them. So how can you combat this? Every school is different, but where I'm at, we have a chart that looks like this. It's a simple system where when we see undesired behavior, students get prompted and redirected. They get 2 chances at this before they need to move on to a reflection time. And this for me is a restorative discussion that happens in the student's own time where we can discuss their behavior. But I like to tie it to my system, and everything gets related back to either time wasted or time earned. So I keep track of these times where they get prompted. Over the period where students were accumulating time, if they were prompted 5 times, while everyone else gets their time, you lose some. Instead, while everyone else is enjoying their time, you make up for wasted time. And I'll find some activity that we did during the week that they'll need to work on and use their time wisely. And if you're very firm and consistent with these behaviors, when the students start to see what they're missing out on, behaviors start to change very fast. But you don't want them knowing that they're going to miss out on this time if there's still lots to earn, because then they've got nothing to work towards. So you have to create some sort of threshold that is appropriate for your classroom setting. They need a few chances so that they can have time to reflect and change the behavior to what you want, so that they can work towards participating in that time. And always have a restorative conversation with your students for what they need to work on if they are to participate. Okay, so some variations and some pro tips to make sure that it works in your classroom. You always let them determine the reward. Come up as a class with a bank of activities that you might be able to use this time for, and you could use the spinning wheel to pick one of the activities, or you could vote in class. But at the end of the day, it's their time, they earned it, they should get to choose what they use it for. They don't have to achieve 5 minutes and then use it. I like to use it in 5-minute increments, so when they hit 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes, I ask them, do you want to use your time now, or do you want to continue to accumulate it? Most of the time, they just choose 5 minutes, which is absolutely fine with me. I'd rather that because it goes very quick. You are a very smart teacher. You will start to see how fast they start to do things. And if you do it right, you can time it perfectly so that they get their reward time exactly when you want them to, and it doesn't interrupt your lessons. You'll find a way that you can get it so it falls at the end of a session or at the end of an activity, because at the end of the day, we're here to save time, not waste it. Make the first few times as fun as you possibly can so the students get a very solid understanding of what it is they're going to be missing out on if they do not meet your expectations. Negotiate with your class how many warnings they need before they start to miss out. Every classroom setting is different. I've worked in schools where I needed to have 10 to 15 chances before they'd miss out because they needed this to work towards. But you can gradually reduce that over a long period of time. So they start at 15, but they might end at 5, and you will see massive improvements in their behavior. And you could also negotiate what that missing out looks like. It could be every warning they miss out on 1 minute. It could be 10 warnings and they miss out on the whole thing altogether. It's up to you and what you and your class decides. With time, you'll work out what works best for your setting. But if you do it well, you will start to see a massive increase in time saved and changes in the behavior. And before you know it, you're going to be saving so much time you won't know what to do with it. But it does become stale after a while, which is absolutely okay. And if anything, this is what you want. Because if you do it right off the bat and you're very consistent with it, your kids will just build the habit of doing things very quickly and very efficiently. So you can move on to another system, but they retain that time-saving mentality. So try it out and let me know how it goes. Otherwise, take care and enjoy.